After exploring many options, a residential care facility in Deer Isle will not reopen to the community. The Island Nursing Home will remain closed after the board of directors said there was a lack of reliable funding and staff. Board president saying, quote, funding shortfalls due to low reimbursement rates by the state presented a challenge. And even though we would not have needed as large of a staff, we could not guarantee that we could even be able to meet the minimum employment requirements for a residential care facility, unquote. The home closed in October of 21 due to staffing challenges, but the community asked the board to explore all options before an official closing. The board is now in the process of assessing other options for the building.